All right, thanks, Tom. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today about really just an update of kind of where we are in updating, revising our 2006 Lake Superior Management Plan in Minnesota. So this new plan is going to get us from 2016 to 2025. We're currently waiting for final approval to get it out for public comment. That should be occurring in the next week or so. So then it's going to be posted online. Folks will be able to go to the website, check it out, answer some questions, provide us with some feedback. In the new management plan, we do have proposals in there that are changes in current practice, and as suggested with the Joint Strategic Plan, bring these activities to the Lake Committee. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of show you what we've been proposing in our management plan. So our management planning process really has three parts to it. We have a stakeholder group, the Lake Superior Advisory Group, which is made up of 26 different stakeholder groups. There's one representative from each group on the advisory group. It's made up of commercial fishermen, charter fishermen, sport fishermen, fishermen that have no affiliation with anybody, tribal and treaty entities, soil and water conservation districts. It's really our Great Lakes Fishery Commission advisors are also on our advisory group. And it's really kind of where the basis of all of our management planning began. Other things, another part of the planning process are the Lake Superior Tech Committee documents, Lake Superior Committee documents, and the documents that the Fishery Commission puts out, because these really provide good sideboards for us moving forward with stakeholders on what we can do for each species, management-wise. And then also we have our MNDNR internal planning and review process that incorporates 4 different area offices, our regional offices, and also our central office. So the way that the public review started, we started with a 2014 kickoff campaign. We brought everybody that was interested in Lake Superior fisheries management in for a kickoff conference where we essentially did a state of the lake update to our stakeholders, giving them everything that we've learned in the last 10 years on Lake Superior, whether or not we met the goals and objectives that we set forth in the 2006 management plan, and again, some of the issues that we should probably be looking forward to for the next 10 years. We then moved into a monthly meeting phase with our advisory group, starting with meetings on introductions and goals, brook trout, rainbow trout, salmon, lake trout, commercial fishing and prey species, habitat. We did a review of everything that we addressed during the previous 6 months, and then we also had a meeting at the end to get comments back from the advisory group on the draft plan that we put together. And those comments that we received back really did help to make it a much better document. But the purpose of these monthly meetings was really information intensive. Get as much information into the hands of the stakeholders so they can provide you with good, informative comments on management moving forward. So the overall management goal really didn't change too much. We did insert rehabilitate and protect rather than restore the watershed. Everybody was kind of in agreement that we can't really get back to a previous state with the watershed. The major threats that we identified, the major threats are the same things that have plagued Lake Superior for 130 years: overharvest, invasive species, habitat degradation. Minimizing those threats, conservative harvest regulations, strict invasive species policy prevention, habitat restoration, enhancement, and protection. Chapter 1 was really an introduction. It's leading people into why we do this, and fishing in Minnesota is kind of a big deal. Even though we're 23rd in the nation in population size, we're only 3rd in the nation behind the amount of money spent by people towards angling recreation, so $2.8 billion per year in Minnesota. We identified some of the challenges to fisheries management, one of them being better fishing technology, side scan sonar, GPS units. I mean, the advancement in fishing technology has really made it easier for people like me to be able to go out and catch fish easily and consistently. We also set some goals and guiding principles for the document. Fish production is finite in Lake Superior. We value self-sustaining populations. We understand that we have diverse interest of user groups, continuous evaluation of our programs as we move forward, and cooperative management with other jurisdictions. Chapter 2 is a fish community, giving folks information on where we've been and the gains that we've made. Late 1800s, really commercial overfishing, habitat degradation were kind of the big issues. The mid 1900s, we talk about rainbow smelt, sea lamprey invasions and the impacts on the fish communities. 60s to the 90s was really lake trout rehabilitation through stocking and regulation. 1990s to present, reestablishment of self-sustaining lake trout stocks. Most populations rehabilitated except in those areas of high exploitation. Survival of our stocked lake trout is really poor, and conservative harvest and sea lamprey control are key to maintaining the progress that we've made in rehabilitation. Chapter 3, habitat. We have lake habitat and we also have tributary habitat. And for the lake habitat, it's really protect, restore, enhance quantity and quality of fisheries habitat in the Minnesota waters of Lake Superior, which matches up pretty well with our fish community objective of no net loss, restore habitats that have been degraded, and also develop comprehensive and detailed inventories of fish habitats. Some of the objectives to reach those goals: reduce habitat degradation through the regulatory process, ensure that criteria to protect fishery habitat are included in policy and regulation and zoning and development, protect, restore, and enhance riparian areas, effects of contaminants on Lake Superior fish, and also do what we can to reduce contaminant input, and identify and quantify spawning areas. This is something that we started to do during the beginning of the last management plan, or even before that, where we identified, mapped out some spawning habitats, but we never followed up and did assessment work after that to see whether or not those habitats were actually being utilized. Tributary habitat goal: protect, restore, enhance the quantity, quality, and diversity of habitats that support different life histories, evolutionary legacies, etc. This is really probably the biggest part in our management plan that had the most revision and the most added information into it, partly because of in Minnesota we have the Clean Water Land and Legacy Amendment, which was a voter-approved 3/8 of 1% sales tax increase, with the proceeds going to fish and wildlife habitat, clean water, and arts and culture. So what this is, it's not funding directly to the DNR, it's funding that anybody can put in to do habitat projects, especially for fish and wildlife. And this is a typical habitat project that we've seen. On the clean water side, lower portions of Minnesota rivers, we have a lot of clay banks, and a lot of those rivers are pushed up against the valley wall where these clay banks are. In turn, the rivers get listed as impaired, 303D listed as impaired for turbidity. This habitat project, this is called a tow wood bank structure. And what that's meant to do is to push get the stream channel back away from the clay bank. Under the water surface, there's a series of root wads. So there's probably 7 or 9 root wads. This was a project done by one of the conservation districts. So 7 or 9 root wads pointing into the flow reduces or dissipates energy, provides deep water habitat that again was lacking because of the erosion issues occurring on this site, and it also provides large woody habitat. On the top here, this is a bankful bench, and that's also meant to dissipate energy. As that water elevation rises, the energies dissipate out over that new floodplain bench, and again moves the river away from the bank, hopefully in turn reducing turbidity. Other projects that we had seen, we see complete channel realignment. So after 2012 flooding, a lot of stream channels pushing up against clay banks, and in some instances the easiest thing to do is actually just rebuild an entire stream channel. So this is sort of a before of where a lot of erosion was taking place on a clay bank. Again, turbidity issues, aggradation, degradation, really unstable stream channel. And the final product is actually putting the stream channel back into the floodplain where it has lateral connectivity with the floodplain. Flood flows to move up, dissipate energy over the floodplain. Really, you're restoring pattern, dimension, and profile for a stable stream channel. So this is a place where we identified some objectives, particularly relating to the new funding sources, because they do require that a lot of that work be done on public lands, which means that a lot of that work is going to be done on DNR administered lands, conservation easements, or fishing easements. So we identified some things: protect sensitive riparian and stream habitats, again by purchasing additional conservation easements. That also allows groups to go in with habitat restoration money. Work on that integrated natural resource watershed plans, and this is an attempt to move away from kind of random acts of conservation and band-aid approaches to habitat restoration, and really start looking at watersheds as a whole, as a system. Typically, degradation in stream is caused by something occurring in the watershed. So moving towards some of these integrated natural resource watershed plans or master plans for watersheds is an attempt on our part to try to get a better understanding of what's causing the actual degradation in stream. Identify, prioritize, and restore degraded stream reaches. That's, again, one of our top priorities. Require the use of natural channel design in our assessment and design of stream habitat projects on DNR-administered lands. Natural channel design is it's an approach where you find a stable stream that is not agrading or degrading and efficiently moves its sediment in its water. And you're taking the dimension, pattern, and profile of that stable stream and then applying it to your degraded stream. We also require justification for how habitat projects are going to address the 5 components of a healthy river system: connectivity, geomorphology, water quality, biology, and hydrology. And also fish community response to habitat improvement projects is something that we want to provide more assistance with. This seems like with every funding source, you always have the money to do shovel-ready projects or get in the water and actually do a project, but you don't have money to do follow-up to see whether or not the habitat project actually did what it said it might do for the biological community. Native prey fish, we broke out native prey fish from non-native prey fish in this revision process, primarily because of all the work that we do on assessment and total allowable catch quotas in our commercial fishery. But it's essentially the same as our fish community objective: rehabilitate and protect self-sustaining core-gonaid stocks that support predators and provides a commercial fishery. You saw earlier the USGS bottom trawl surveys showing that prey fish biomass is at all-time lows in Lake Superior, and also in our MN1 November commercial fisheries, 82% decline in catch per unit effort in the last 5 years, or since 2009. So got some issues with prey fish going on. So we're going to continue annual estimates of spawning stock biomass for Cisco. Look at the annual year class contribution, catch per effort, the yield of the commercial fishery, maintain our conservative harvest of Cisco by continuing our total allowable catch quota system that we have in place, investigate our seasonal differences in spawning stock biomass, continue to cooperate with research investigating population dynamics of Cisco, particularly related to recruitment issues, continue to support the establishment of a lake-wide stock assessment model as well. For lean lake trout, we were able to cross out rehabilitate and maintain, or rehabilitate and just stick with maintain self-sustaining lake trout stocks that provide recreational, commercial, and tribal fishing opportunities. That's because we've also proposed to discontinue lake trout stocking in MN1, which is the last remaining zone that we were stocking lake trout. This is based on criteria established in a lake trout restoration plan for Lake Superior. Over 50% wild fish in the May assessment, stable or increasing abundance for 3 years, stocked lake trout survival. You see that we've hit the percent wild lake trout in the May assessment and the stocked lake trout survival index of less than 1.0 since the early 2000s. So objectives for our goal for lake trout: discontinue lake trout stocking in MN1 by 2017. We have actually probably going to do it in 2016 due to some frunculosis issues that we had in our brood stock. Establish a spawning stock biomass management threshold. Extend spatial coverage of our DNR lake assessments. Currently, commercial operators are doing assessments in MN3 and MN2. We do all of the assessments in MN1. We're looking to expand our May assessment efforts into those 2 other zones. The commercial guys will continue to do their assessments so we can maintain that long-term data set. We just want to extend the spatial coverage of our DNR assessments. And again, establish a commercial fishing zone for lake trout in MN1. This is something that's new for us with a quota of 500 lake trout. The commercial fishing zone is going to be approximately from the Knife River north to the boundary of MN1 and MN2. This is really to alleviate any potential conflict between commercial operators and the real heavy charter and sport fishing industry that we have based out of Duluth. And also continue to support sea lamprey control efforts. Going through this process with stakeholders, it was really kind of surprising to me how many folks really still thought that sea lamprey weren't an issue in the Great Lakes or in Lake Superior, and that we didn't have to do anything to reduce sea lamprey populations. And some folks were really surprised to hear that. No, it's a constant thing that you have to maintain control efforts to keep sea lamprey down. I think the Fish and Wildlife Service and Canadian counterparts have done such a good job of sea lamprey control that perhaps our constituents have gotten a little complacent when they don't see a bunch of sea lamprey wounds on fish. So some of the videos that the Commission has put out recently, one being the video around deploying a sea lamprey control crew, getting that out to folks is really an important part that we hope to push forward on a lot more. The big thing for lake trout in MN1 is 70% of our harvest in Minnesota waters come from 10% of our water. That's around MN1. So even though discontinuing lake trout stocking for the purpose of rehabilitation is a success story, we got to be really diligent in our management going into the future here. Brook trout, protect and maintain self-sustaining coastal brook trout stocks. In the spring creel, they actually do catch quite a few numbers of brook trout on the North Shore, up to 1,000 in 2010, 2014 around 400. We plan to manage the brook trout fishery below berries as a trophy brook trout fishery, maintain the one fish bag limit, 20-inch minimum size limit. Again, protect, rehabilitate, and restore habitats. Work cooperatively with Grand Portage Band to monitor results of various coastal brook trout stocking strategies, and also investigate the feasibility of adopting the Lake Superior Technical Committee protocol for brook trout sampling. We say investigate the feasibility because in Minnesota we do have our own stream-based protocol that we've had since 1997, where we do a fall spawning survey every 5 years, and that's really given us really good data on, one, evaluating our 20-inch minimum size limit and continuing to monitor the populations. Rainbow trout, our goal for rainbow trout has always been to rehabilitate naturalized steelhead stocks to achieve a level that will allow a limited harvest, and that goal hasn't changed. We do realize that there is a need for a harvest fishery or a desire for a harvest fishery in Minnesota waters, and we provide that with the Kamloops strain of rainbow trout. It's a hatchery-based rainbow trout. But what we see recently is steelhead catch rates increasing through time. Kamloops rainbow trout, the harvest fishery, catch rates decreasing through time. Rainbow trout objectives, again, protect, maintain, improve steelhead habitat. Habitat right now in Minnesota is really a big funding source that we're really interested in trying to get the best out of our habitat work that's going on. Maintain the catch and release regulation for steelhead, but meet with our advisory group and stakeholders in 5 years to consider harvest regulations. Expand the zone where steelhead are maintained solely through natural reproduction, which means discontinue steelhead fry stocking on the upper shore. Monitor catch rates after that, and determine the contribution of steelhead stocked as fry in the spring fishery, and develop genetic monitoring plan to look for introgression between Kamloops and steelhead, which we know through previous studies is an issue and does contribute to reduced fitness in naturalized steelhead. We've already started the genetics project. Two groups in particular, Minnesota Steelheader and Trout Unlimited, have really kind of taken this project and ran with it. They printed up a bunch of cards that describe what the project is, instructions on how anglers, so we recruited anglers to take scale samples through the spring fishery. So they have a little card that they can see exactly how to take scale samples. We're working on training them in on safe handling operations of fish. And we're really looking at getting a shore-wide, north shore-wide idea of whether genetic introgression between Kamloops and steelhead are occurring. And we're also doing a cool thing where we're genotyping our entire brood stock of steelhead that we have in the hatchery with the hopes of in the future getting samples from anglers again to try and determine whether or not we're getting our fry sampling program is actually contributing to the spring fishery. This is an offshoot of a project that we did on the Knife River a few years ago. It was the Who Made Who project, where you genotype everybody and kind of see the smolts come out and see what fish contribute most to the population. Chinook salmon, our Chinook salmon really hasn't changed, or our salmon goals haven't changed. Managed for self-sustaining Chinook salmon populations that provide sport fishing opportunities. Goal or an objective of an average annual catch of 2,500 Chinooks. Since 2006, 3,700 per year on average. Coho salmon, average annual catch of 3,000. 2006 till now, about 3,200 per year. So we've met that target. And lake sturgeon, maintain, enhance, and rehabilitate self-sustaining populations of lake sturgeon. Coordinate lake sturgeon sampling efforts as part of the coordinated sampling and monitoring initiative, and adopt the strategies and objectives from a lake sturgeon rehabilitation plan for Lake Superior. I wanted to give a big thanks to the folks in our office, Keith Reeves, Josh Blankenheim, Nick Peterson. These guys have been working really hard, not only on the management plan and the monthly meetings with stakeholders, but they've also gotten all of the field work and report writing and annual things that we do every year. So kudos to those guys. Thanks to the Lake Superior Advisory Group. Like I said, the comments and information that they provided to us really did help make this a better document, and we really enjoyed reaching out and talking to the diverse number of stakeholders that we have in Minnesota. And also the Lake Superior Technical Committee, Lake Superior Committee, Great Lakes Fishery Commission, again, the documents, restoration plans, joint strategic plan, fish community objectives, those are all extremely helpful when talking with stakeholder groups in fisheries management, especially multi-jurisdictional fisheries management. So, thank you.